When Richard Vidal finally retired in 1834, by then a commander in the British Navy, he was awarded a grant of land in Canada in return for his meritorious service, settling on 200 acres in Lambton County at the Rapids, later to be known as Port Sarnia. Here his family's name was memorialized by naming several streets after them. With George Durand and Malcolm Cameron, Richard Emmerich Vidal would enter history as one of the three founding fathers of the town of Sarnia. A brother also served in the British Navy. Alexander Thomas Emmerich Vidal served in British ships along the Great Lakes during the War of 1812 as a naval lieutenant. Following the war, he was engaged in surveying Canada's inland waterways, since the British government planned to establish a fleet on Lake Huron. It was during this surveying that he first saw his future home site in Moore Township. While Vidal continued to serve with the Royal Navy in many parts of the world, he secured a grant of 200 acres here in Lambton County. Vidal built a home and lived here for 1 year until being recalled into service. In 1859, finally retired from the sea and gazetted as a vice admiral, he returned to find his home in ruins along the river Moore. A new house was built farther down the river but facing it. Vidal had it built in ship fashion, including heavy timbers, built by George Stockdale, and including many features found on board a ship. He also brought ashore his washstand and chest that he'd used on board the ship. A curious bit of furniture built on his farm was a coffin fashioned out of oak from a tree nearby. It was kept for many years in his bedroom. Vidal planned ultimately to use the coffin, but rather than let it stand idle, he used it to store apples. Except for serving as Moore's first township treasurer in 1852, Vidal shunned public affairs. In 1862, Admiral Vidal retired from farming and returned to England. Included in the many articles he planned to ship with him was the oak coffin. Whether or not it was packed with apples is not known. In transshipping at Quebec, this piece of furniture was refused as cargo by the ship's master and was left on shore. Perhaps it was because sailors believed that if an empty coffin was brought on board a ship, it would be occupied by some dead person by the time the ship docked at its destination. The coffin's fate remains unknown, but now, a year later, the white ensign has gone to half-mast for Admiral Alexander Thomas Emmerich Vidal. He is to be buried in England without his cherished casket.